So, in less than 6 months' time, we've seen Microsoft make a major shift where they are now completely embracing PlayStation to a point where they announced a couple of months ago that they're bringing four of their games over to the PlayStation platform. And that right now they're just starting with four games. Obviously, people were very curious to know, would it be more than four games? And the response that the head of Microsoft Gaming, Phil Spencer, gave was essentially, well, we're just starting with four games and we're going to see how it does. And the implication very much was, if it does well and it's a success and it makes them money and they get good sales, they're going to bring more games over after that. And so recently, actually yesterday, Microsoft gave their earnings, their quarterly earnings, and we're learning some very interesting stuff about, I think, not only like what's going on with the Xbox console, but also more importantly, like what we maybe can expect with Xbox games coming to PlayStation, like more games beyond the four that are out. And so this is courtesy of Zubitech over on X, where he points out that the hardware results for Microsoft's fiscal year 2024 is not good. I mean, if we look at Q1 from July to September, it was down 7%. If we look at Q2, it was up 3%. It's worth noting that's when Starfield released, so it seems like it maybe helped a little bit, but really not that much. And that was during the holiday period. But when we look at Q3, things really start to take a massive nosedive, where between January and March of this year, Microsoft is reporting a decline of 31% for Xbox console sales. That's in the double digits. That is quite substantial. And honestly, when you consider the fact that we are in what would normally be considered a peak year for a console, that's really bad. And so something else that's being reported here is what Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella had to say about Microsoft's current performance in gaming. Now, he's speaking directly to the shareholders. He says, "We committed to meeting players where they are bringing great games to more people on more devices. We are expanding our games to new platforms, bringing four of our fan favorite titles to Nintendo Switch and Sony PlayStation for the first time. In fact, earlier this month, we had 7 games among the top 25 on the PlayStation Store, more than any other publisher." Now, this is what Microsoft CEO is communicating to the shareholders. And obviously, it makes sense because this is something, if you are Microsoft, that is worth bragging about. It's good news that you're going to communicate directly to your shareholders like, hey, we had more games in the top 25 on PlayStation Store than any other publisher. That's the most of any other publisher. That obviously sounds much better than them just simply coming out and reporting like, yeah, our hardware sales are tanking. But on top of that, we have Microsoft's CFO, Amy Hood, on the Microsoft Q4 fiscal year 2024 outlook, quote, "Xbox hardware revenue will decline again year over year." So to me, it seems pretty obvious what is happening right now. To me, it was honestly kind of obvious back in December, right? When Microsoft was beginning to communicate to the shareholders that we're looking to go more third party. And there was a lot of denial at this time. But then when you look at what occurred in February, where the rumors reached a fever pitch, everybody was losing their minds. And Microsoft had to come out and directly acknowledge, like, yeah, we're doing this. We're bringing 4 games over. And even then, you still kind of see people hanging on to the notion that, well, it's just 4 games. It's not really that big of a deal. But when we look at what's being said here, it should be crystal clear that more Microsoft games are absolutely going to come to PlayStation, and they're actually bragging about the success that they're finding. It's pretty clear by now that Microsoft's intention is to become a major third-party publisher, and it's not even that it's their intention, it's their focus, it's their priority. Obviously, they committed to making another Xbox console, and I don't think Xbox hardware is going anywhere. But when you look at this, you see that it's reaching a new low, like, minus 31% during, again, what would be considered a peak year. And this time, what's different is Microsoft is not just reporting to their shareholders like, hey, uh, we're having trouble selling Xbox consoles, but don't worry, we'll turn it around. They're not saying that anymore. They're saying we're having trouble selling Xbox consoles, but don't worry, we're selling a lot of games on the PlayStation Store and we're finding a lot of success there and a lot of our titles are doing well. Absolutely, we are going to see more Xbox games coming to PlayStation, and I think this is just the beginning. But very interesting times. I wanted to be sure to report this to you guys because I think a lot of people were curious. I know I was curious to know, what Microsoft would be saying, considering this is the first quarter where we've seen them actually port a handful of their games over to PlayStation. If it didn't go well, I think they probably wouldn't be bragging as much about it, right? Like, I think they would try to make it sound as positive as they could. But I mean, Satya Nadella is just straight up out here flexing about how well Microsoft is doing on PlayStation. I think it clearly communicates that you can expect more of this. And this is said to hopefully get the shareholders happy and to invest even more money into Microsoft. And if that's what happens, then yeah, you better believe that we're going to see a lot more games from Microsoft making their way to PlayStation. So let me know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. Leave the video a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new, hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share the video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.